Okay, you guys are quiet already. My name is Ron, I'm an alcoholic. A couple quick announcements. I guess you guys already know we have a Facebook page, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown. Keeps us all connected. Not only that, we have audios we post up there, different speakers, flyers, all kind of events. If you have any events yourself, please post them on there, get everybody connected. It's a really good way to seek recovery and find recovery and stay connected and never be bored in AA. Also, our talks are posted on YouTube, so that makes it very convenient to share with other people. Sometimes you hear a speaker and they say some great things, and you're like, man, I wish I could remember that. I don't know if you're like me, but I forget 5 minutes after I leave, so that's a really beautiful reason why we record these talks. What else we got to do? Oh, 8 p.m. is our food and fellowship, don't forget that. And there is one thing that I think is really important, because I announced this, is that I did some research. $1 in the basket in 1970 is equivalent to $7.25 in 2022. So share that at all the meetings you go to, because GSO in New York, really, they took a good hit during the COVID, and, so they could use all the funds they can. In fact, you could just donate straight to them. You just Google it up online and just sign all your paychecks to them and your savings and your house, whatever. Anyway, we're going to have some fun tonight. We got some great people to chair and a great speaker. He tells me he's great. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Let's welcome Nick up here to chair and let's have some fun.
Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Nick and I am an alcoholic. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street at 8:30 p.m. in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Food and fellowship starts at 8 p.m. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 right here. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teaching of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Yes, sir.
I'm Tony, I'm an alcoholic.
Welcome, Tony. Hello. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Miss.
Hi, I'm Christine. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Christine. Welcome. All right. Welcome to everybody. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? Hello.
I am Teresa, I'm an alcoholic. The first Tuesday of May 3rd, there's going to be a new big book meeting. It's meeting in Quakertown, Pennsylvania, every Tuesday at 7 o'clock. It's a different meeting line by line at First Church's Brethren at 455 on Garrisville Road. If you would like any information, please see me out. Thank you.
Again, my name is Ron, I'm an alcoholic. I always say like at a treatment center for people that want to sign up and go at 7 p.m. in Quakertown. See me after the meeting if you want to be of service. Requirements other than going is to show up and talk to people that are dying of alcoholism and drug addiction, share their experience. Thank you. Thanks.
We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books and CDs to help those who can't afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Book and CD Donations. If you'd like a CD of any speaker, past or present, please see me or any home group member before or after the meeting, and they are available free of charge. And now with that, I have Teresa to come up and read the AA preamble.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Teresa, and I'm an alcoholic. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I have Jay to come up and read the AA 12 Steps of Recovery.
My name is Jay and I'm an alcoholic. Here are the AA 12 steps of recovery. Step 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Step 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step 7. Humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. Step 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except where to do so would injure them or others. Step 10. Continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will and the power to carry that out. And step 12, having had a spiritual experience, spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
The 7th tradition. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, we'd like to pass the baskets. We have no dues or fees, but we do have expenses. And this group provides many services. Your donations cover rent, big books, CDs, events, and workshops. And just a side note, we just did purchase 100 big books to give away to people in rehabs. If anybody needs a big book, please see us after the meeting. So your donations are greatly appreciated to help us with that. Once again, there's absolutely no smoking on church property. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. And now to introduce our speaker, a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group, Dave M. from Maryland.
Thank you. I peeled off $8 real quickly out of nervous, when Ron was looking at me. Dave, alcoholic. Oh, it's good to be here. It's been a long time since I've been here. I want to thank Ron for asking me to speak. Everybody's getting out, getting comfortable after COVID, so it's always good to see faces there and hug people and take pictures and eat hot dogs and laugh and, all that stuff. My sobriety date's April 14th, 1983. I just celebrated 39 years of recovery a couple weeks ago. Yeah, how about that, huh? I was 9 when I got sober. Yeah, I was 21. I just turned 60. And it's been a long, strange trip, man. I'm not going to lie. I got sober in Jersey. Went to a young people's meeting in Summit, New Jersey. It was a Wednesday night, and I've been here ever since. My job is to tell you what it was like for me, what happened, and what I'm like now. So that was my little prayer when I usually pray and ask God to guide my thoughts and my actions and help me say something that'll help somebody. That's really all I can promise you. I was born and raised in Jersey, North Plainfield, New Jersey. 5 boys in my family. My mom got married when she was 16 in Alabama. She met my father, who was visiting a friend in the Navy. They eloped a month later. And on the wedding day, he said, "I want 5 boys," and my mom delivered
5 boys. So by the time she was 26 years old, she had 5 boys. Oh my God, can you imagine? Yeah, crazy. You know, we never wanted for anything. We always had food, and my dad worked for the phone company. He just passed last March, and you know, my mom's 83, and she's a beast. She's 110 pounds of fury. I'm still scared of her. She's about 5'1", and you know, back then you could hit a kid, so you know, there was no doubt there was some discipline in that household. She was corralling animals. She had no choice but to swing and fire. She didn't really care who she was firing at. She just swung and fired. So when I was 8, something happened to an 8-year-old kid that really shouldn't happen to an 8-year-old kid. You know, we share in a general way. And the lights went out, right? You can't wrap your brain around that as a kid. And I remember as soon as I could find booze, I remember getting a beer for my dad from the fridge. He used to drink those fat buds. Go get me a beer. He's watching a ball game or something, watching the Yankees. And I would chug half of it on the way to the, you know, giving it to him. And he'd kind of scruff me on the head and knucklehead. Boys will be boys, right? You know, they throw you in rehab for that kind of stuff now. But back then it was kind of cute. So I remember what it felt like for that cold bud to sting my throat. And I have to choke it down, but I like the effect. I immediately like the ease and comfort that came from that drink. I remember it. And New Year's Eve, I drank myself into my first blackout. My parents went out for the night. I broke into the liquor cabinet and just started tipping back bottles, rye, rum, vodka, didn't really care. And I passed out and threw up, you know, and laid on the floor of my own vomit. I was 12. You know, I was 6th grade going into 7th grade. You know, my dad used to say, Jesus H. Christ. You know, I remember him saying that and dragging me into the tub, and, you know, they would just beat you and throw you in bed and just, you know, you're grounded for life was a familiar term. I don't know, anybody else grounded for life? Yeah, of course we were. Which meant about 2-3 weeks if you were on good behavior, right? If you cut the lawn and did the laundry, whatever you had to do. And I remember smoking weed almost every day when I was in 7th grade. You know, I knew that people were prepping for high school and college and life, but I just had this need to, you know, and it's very unusual sometimes when I talk, because as I'm talking, it makes sense more and more to me why I did what I did, right? I just wanted to forget. I felt dark and shameful. I felt, you know, shame down to my core on a cellular level. I don't know if anybody can relate with that. And any chance I got to take that away, I did it. I had split sessions in high school, and I smoked weed every single day on the way to school. Then at the 9:30 break, and then after school. Because that's just the way that I got through, you know, my you know, adolescent years. I'm pretty sure there was some study going on. I always did enough to get by, and I wouldn't, you know, get yelled at. So I was a good solid C minus guy. I remember when I was in 6th grade, I was in accelerated 10th grade math. And then I started smoking weed. And then everything kind of went black, and I just didn't care. You know, I didn't care about school. I was just living for the weekend keg party. As soon as I could get to the weekend. And back then I was 13, 14 years old. I remember going to a Grateful Dead concert, disappearing on a Friday and coming back Sunday. That was normal, you know. There was no cell phones. The phone hung on the wall. And I look back now and the torture that I put my parents through. They didn't know where the hell I was, what I was doing. They were pretty sure they knew what I was doing, but they couldn't find me. I just would disappear. And I was fully prepared to take the heat when I got home, because I didn't care. I knew I was grounded for life. I knew I was gonna, my dad was gonna beat the hell out of me. I didn't care. Didn't care. The more they yelled, the less I cared. That's the way it was. We had an athletic family, 5 boys. My brother was a wrestler, and he wrestled 101 for North Plainfield, went on to get a full ride to college. I wrestled 108, and I was high. And he knew I was high at practice, and he used to beat the hell out of me in practice. And I had the same ride that he had waiting for me if I wanted it, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't show up. All I had to do was not fall over, and I had a full ride to college. And the night before my SATs, 11th grade, most people are home studying. I was out underage getting hammered in some bar in Greenbrook, Denellen, New Jersey called the Rathskeller. It's a nasty, seedy old bar with, just dark brick, there's no windows, and they would serve kids like me. Dragged myself into a blackout, and I hit a tree doing about 70 miles an hour in a blackout. I don't remember it. I broke my femur in half, 6 ribs. One of the ribs punctured the bronchial tube, collapsed the lung, broke my sternum, my nose, broke the clavicle that ripped the subclavian artery to my heart, collapsed the lung, and Muhlenberg Hospital in Plainfield, there were 6 trauma patients in there that night. Had I gone there, I would never survived. I was next to Raritan Valley Community Hospital, and I was about a minute away from there and the squad got me there on time. There were 5 surgeons giving a going away party for one of their buddies that was going to start a practice out west. Cardiopulmonary surgeon, a plastic surgeon, a bone specialist, and they were waiting for me. God, despite me wanting to drink myself to death, God had other plans. And they worked on me for 15 hours and saved my life. Some say they studied me in the Rutgers Medical Journals, one of 5 that survived with those injuries. So I went into my senior year of high school, and by the end of that summer, I was starting to feel better, right? So the keggers were coming out, I had a cane, and I remember I was hobbling, everybody was excited to see me, and they handed me a glass of, the red Solo cup, and my buddy's like, "Hey man, you supposed to be drinking?" Well, the doctor said it was okay if I had a beer. All right, well, I get it. We passed the joint around, I took a hit, and he goes, "Dude, are you supposed to be smoking?" Well, the doctor said it was okay if I smoked 1 joint. They're like, "Who's your doctor? Like, what are you talking about?" And I smoked and drank that artery graft closed by the end of that summer. I would come home at night, and that graft was just like, and I didn't care. I was just taunting it to explode. Go ahead, blow. Just put me out of my misery. Just get it done with. I didn't know how to live. I wanted to die. And I'd wake up the next morning, and I'd have to do it all over again. So on just another night, I was just shy of my 21st birthday, and I went out one more time with my parents' car, living in their house, drunk. And my dad gets up and he's shaking me. "Where's the car?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Did I have it?" I lost it down at Rutgers somewhere. I don't know where the hell it was. And they had enough. He said, "You either get some help or get the hell out of the house. I think you have a problem with alcohol." And that was like the first time that anybody ever said that to me. And the only reason why I was forced to take action, because I had no leverage, right? I'm living in their house, and so they called. You know, my mom was on the board of Muhlenberg Hospital at the time. My old Pop Warner football coach was on the board, and he was a member of AA. There was a woman on the board also whose son, Gary, was a member of AA, and they knew what to do. So they sent Gary to pick me up that night for a Wednesday night meeting in Summit, New Jersey. And it was a T-top Porsche 944 convertible. So I was like, nice. If I come to AA, I'll get a Porsche. That has not happened. I have a Chevy Traverse. Which, by the way, today I changed the back tail lights. I added a lug nut, and I replaced the battery. Yeah, all on my own. YouTube, that was that's some man skills, honey, right? Maybe nobody's excited about that, but I was pretty excited. YouTube, you can do anything. Damn kids, they can do anything now. You just watch a YouTube. So anyway, I didn't get a Porsche. And I was 21, you know. I was like, if I have to hang out in church basements with you dorks and cornballs the rest of my life, you might as well shoot me now. Because I was way too hip for this place, right? I was terminally hip. I was dying in plain sight. That was April 1st, 1983. Troy Healy showed up with a Corvette T-top convertible. I had a thing for T-top convertibles. And he goes, you want to smoke a bone? And I said, yeah, sure. And I rolled out, smoked a joint, came back home, went to a meeting next day. They said, well, you're not supposed to have any mind-altering substances. I was like, dude, come on. You can't smoke weed? Are you kidding me? What kind of place is this? So April 14th is my date, and off I went. There were a lot of softball and dances and fun, right? The fellowship hooked me. And I think that's the attraction that we have for the newcomer. It's important for the newcomer to be attracted to what we have. They want to see the ladies dressed up with pretty dresses on, and the gentlemen are showing up with suits. And what's going on with these guys? What if there's no attraction to this place? Why are they going to come back, right? If we're not having fun, if we're not going to the diner and camping and canoeing and doing fun things, what is the attraction to the newcomer? So it's very important. However, that is not really the only thing that this program is about. That is the fellowship, right? And I hung in the fellowship for as long as I possibly could. It's about 4 years before I did an actual 4-step, reluctantly, because my sponsor was screaming at me. I used to go to the Garden State Young People's Conference in Stillwater. Anybody go to that concert? All right, tough crowd. I started going there when I was like two years sober, and I had been going there, and there was this guy up there, his name was Brian, and he said, dump your fifth step on somebody, just find somebody. And I did. And I told this guy all the weird, dark stuff, right? I told him about what happened to me when I was a kid and how it made me feel. And I never really talked about that with anybody. And that's where I stayed. Fifth step. My sponsor said, what about 6 and 7? And I didn't really think they had enough about that in the big book to warrant my attention. So I just kind of floated there. I made some amends, formally when they presented themselves. I didn't write anything down because I'm not that sick. And I really don't have to do all the stuff that you really sick alcoholics do. So I floated. And when things got weird, I called my sponsor, and when I needed something, I showed up to a big book meeting, and when things got really weird, I would show up at a step meeting and make it look like I was doing what you people were doing. Because I want to do enough to make, be with the in crowd, but I don't want to, I'm not doing that stuff. It wasn't until I was so desperate. Untreated alcoholism, right? I suffered for decades in untreated alcoholism. I met a girl in a bar down in South Jersey, and she was pretty. We danced, and we started dating, and we got married, and we had 2 beautiful children. My son Jake is a golf professional, and my daughter Rachel is today at a festival. She's an artist, and my little hippie. And they're beautiful, sweet, lovely kids. I got a job as a golf professional. I was talking to one of the guys here earlier. I was selling food at restaurants in Manhattan for a while, and I was miserable, slinging French fries and butter and ketchup. Not that there's anything wrong with that, right? Every job has dignity, but I was miserable, right? Untreated alcoholic, just wandering around. So a friend of mine in the program said, why don't you go see this career? I remember his name. His name was Joe McKay. He was a career counselor. And he asked me, if you could do anything, wave a magic wand, forget realism, forget, what would you be doing? I said, well, I'd either be on stage or I'd be playing golf. And he said, well, let's talk about the golf. And so I found out what I needed to do to become a golf professional. I applied for my first job, and I got a job because I was a decent golfer, and I was always the kind of guy that just get me in there and I'll figure it out, right? Alcoholics are kind of crafty that way. When we go to jobs, we have no idea what we're doing, but we'll figure it out, right? And that's what I did. And I was a golf professional, and I loved it. My son was born with a golf club in his hand. Barney was popular. And I was a stay-home Mr. Mom in the winter, man. I was not having Barney. You can, forget it. The Golf Channel just came on, so I'd put Jake in front of the Golf Channel, and I'd be cleaning the house, and he'd have his little bottle, and I'd be, Jakey, get back to the right leg, and he'd and then get to your front leg. So, I cut him off a little 7-iron. He was beating plastic balls in the house. One day he, hit a ball and it went right through the window, and I was like, okay, no more balls in the house. And by the time, I think he beat me when he was 12, and he became a golf professional. 16 years old, he turned to me and said, I really enjoy this. I'm good at it. This is what I want to do. And he went to Methodist University and became a golf professional, 4-year golf degree, in the 4-year business degree. And he's a teaching professional out in New York now. Amazing, beautiful, talented, smart, lovely young man. So I was in the business for a while. There was an outing at Newton Country Club. They probably still talk about this, but it was the police chief's outing. It was end of the year. Now I'm untreated alcoholic, right? I'm at my dream job, but I am fried. You know how alcoholics get when they're untreated? We had this outing, we ran out of carts, and the member was screaming at me, we need a cart, my guest has a heart condition, we need it. So I thought, I'll get you a cart. I go down, I get my Honda out of the parking lot, I pull it up on the first tee. I flip open the hatch, I throw both bags in the back, I go, let's go. I said, you can walk, and your boy can ride with me. And down the first cart path, I go with my car. At the time, it seemed like a very logical, I was problem solving. I thought I was getting it done. Well, on the top of the first tee, by the green, there stood the president of the club, the superintendent, and another board member, and they were like, oh my God, Dave is lost it. Like, he is snapped. My boss's wife, my boss was playing in the Pro-Am that day, my boss's wife, she goes, Miller man, what are you doing? And she got the cart and gave it. She goes, come on, buddy, let's go back to the shop. And the president of the club came in the next day and he goes, hey, how'd it go yesterday? Big outing, huh? I go, yep. He goes, a little too big? I go, maybe. Like, they were looking at me like, oh, wow, that's a shame the kid has finally snapped. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I gotta get out of here. Like I knew then I was done. It's time to move on, right? And I went to other teaching jobs, but that's untreated alcoholism, making decisions based on self put me in a position to be hurt, right? Book talks about it. So now I have nothing guiding my thought process but the stuff that got me here. I'm not doing any steps. I'm not sponsoring anybody. I'm not reading the book. I'm just plowing through life without a drink. And every opportunity that I ever had, that was a wonderful opportunity. I got a job down at Lighthouse Sound, and I was the director of the golf school down there. This place is in Arthur Hills, on the water. It is the most magnificent golf course, one of the most magnificent golf courses you'll ever see. I get a job down there. We buy a house. My wife was working in Tower 2. She came down 6 months before the towers went down. We were very fortunate, very lucky. I am in paradise. I cannot believe when I look around that they're paying me to do this, right? Golf schools that are coming down from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, making a lot of money, and what could possibly go wrong, right? Untreated alcoholism. I got into a fight with the pro because he was not doing it the way that he was not giving me my due, right? So I got in a fight with the pro, and I have to leave now because I say things when I'm pissed that you can't unsay, right? And I went to another course, and things are starting to unravel. I'm about 26 years without a drink now, right? And I know lots of guys that have spent that are sober a long time that get drunk because they have untreated alcoholism. I don't care if you're here 20 days or 20 years, right? I had untreated alcoholism. I remember the neighbor, we had a dispute over the land. And there was a fence, like right here, and then a fence right there. And there was about 6 feet of property that was apparently up for grabs. And we got, I was cutting it, he was cutting it. And he had given my daughter a small bicycle as a gesture of neighborly kindness. We get into a fight over the land dispute, and I tell him to take his bike, and I throw it over the fence at him, and as it's in the air, I hear my daughter say, "Daddy, my bike!" Not good. Not good. 26 years sober, and I'm a nutcase. So I run into a guy named Rick, and Rick said, I think you need a sponsor. And I was like, okay. We went to a local restaurant, Mellow Beach in Ocean City, Maryland, and he takes out the big book in plain sight in the middle of a 12-hour lunch rush hour. I'm like, dude, take it easy, would you? It's like whipping out a Bible, for crying out loud. I was embarrassed. I was like, what are you doing? And he opened up the book and he talked about untreated alcoholism, self-centeredness. We think, God allows that to kill us. It will kill us. God makes that possible, right? That's where I was. I was a maniac. I was dying. And so I started to do the work. Started to go through the big book. Right about that time, I started going to Al-Anon because my marriage was kind of unraveling. I went to Al-Anon because my wife was drinking a lot at the time, and she was probably drinking because I was, just horrible to be around. Alcoholics not drinking get a little holier than thou, and they start judging and, looking at your drinking. Meanwhile, I'm a nutbag, and my kids are afraid of me. I'm throwing, stuff across the fence at the neighbors, I eventually went to my wife and I said, listen, I think you have a drinking problem, and I think we should go to marriage counseling. And she goes, I don't have a drinking problem. I'm not going to marriage counseling, and I want you to leave. That was not what I was anticipating. Honey, I love you. Let's do anything. Let's get this. Well, we can make it work. And so within like 6 weeks, I lost a house, job, car, wife, dog. You know, my dog Baxter got hit by a car shortly after that. Lost everything. Everything. And I'm about 27, 28 years sober. And when I look back at it now, God said, I am going to strip you of everything that you have because I want all of you. Right? What you've been giving me is not enough. My brother at the time was living in LA, and he said, well, your life sucks. Why don't you come hang with me for 6 months? So you can sleep on the couch, figure it out, and then after that, you're going to have to go home. So Sandy Beach spoke at Sessions by the Sea, and it was a Sunday morning, and I had all my stuff packed into a Prius hybrid, and I punched in Santa Monica, California, and off I went. I remember just weeping, you know, not crying, wailing, at least to Chicago. There was so much pain and loss behind me that I couldn't comprehend what just happened. There was so much fear ahead of me that it was unbearable. So what did I focus on? The purple line on the GPS was really all I was focusing on. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was being crushed into this beautiful awakening, into the moment that I now really, really enjoy, right? Eckhart Tolle talks about it, you know, the awakening that we go through when we suffer tremendous loss. And I just followed the blue line, you know. I had a thing on my GPS that said points of interest. I would press that line and would say, ooh, largest plexiglass strawberry. Let's go see that. Off I went. Largest Abraham Lincoln head. Oh, that sounds like fun. And, you know, I got out to California. I remember the first day. The only contact I had was Mickey Bush. My buddy Rick Cheatham gave me Mickey Bush's contact. That was the only contact I had in California. And if you know Mickey, Mickey's crazy. And he would take me to meetings, and he's just my friend Dave. He's just lost all his shit. He's an aspiring comedian, but he's not very funny. And he would take me to meetings. And I remember going to the Unurban Cafe. It was a 7:30 meeting. Is anybody new? Anybody having problems? And I was, and I just puke all over. I'm like, I lost everything. All right, take it easy. And this guy Gant came up after the meeting. He said, hey man, what are you doing today? I go, I'm not doing anything. What, are you kidding me? We went to the Spiritual Realization Center in Malibu. It's on Sunset Boulevard, and it's a walk that celebrates all religions. A little lake in the middle, and we started walking around. He started talking about Eckhart Tolle. He started talking about awakening. He said, I think probably what you're experiencing is just tremendous loss. It's incomprehensible what you're going through. I'm going to give you this tape series, Power of Now. Take it, you know, copy it. And I had a computer, and I downloaded it on my computer. I burned the tapes. And I was out there about a week, and I went to a Venice Beach meeting. I was looking for the meeting. I was walking down by Venice Beach, and there was a guy standing on the corner, and I said, you know where such and such street is? It's a great meeting. It's right on the beach. There's a suntan lotion commitment. Somebody walks around, what would you like? Would you like 10, 15, 30? I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I said, I'd like a 10. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. But this guy was standing on the corner with a clipboard. I said, what are you doing? He goes, I'm trying to keep the vagrants off the set from eating all the donuts. I said, well, how do I get on set? He goes, what do you mean, background work? I go, yeah, background work. He goes, here's the number for central casting. I went down there, I got the forms, they took my picture, and then 2 days later, I'm on Ugly Betty. I started to do background work. And my brother goes, are you kidding me? I did Ugly Betty, ER, Samantha Who, like anything. They just wanted human spackle to fill in space in the background, right? They were paying me like $8.50 an hour. They fed me. And so I would sit in my car and listen to this Eckhart Tolle. And he talked about the separation from your mind and the fact that really thinking is not completely and totally necessary. It's not. My brain was on fire my whole life. From the time I was 8 years old, I believe that's when my brain separated, right? Always wanting to get to the next party, the next place, the next person, the next thing. Just torture. Alcoholism is mental illness. Torture. I tried to quiet that noise since I was a kid, right? So here I am, and I'm starting to recognize, I don't know what's going on, but man, I tell you what, I could tell you what was in the room. The lights here are bright, right? Looks like the inside of an old cabin. There's a big, some kind of air conditioning duct. It's black. You know, I started to notice where I was. Welcome, that's a happy sign, right? I never noticed anything, ever, right? Sweatshirts are cool. Looks like an Eagles hat right here. I was present, I was awake. I didn't even know how I got there. God allowed me to paint myself into a bottom in recovery, self-centered decisions that led me into a position of devastation and loss. And he's like, now I got you. Now I got your attention. You see that moment? You see that clarity? That's where I've been the whole time. That's where God lives. You cannot live life 5 seconds from now or 5 seconds ago. Impossible. I have remained here for the most part ever since. My wife will tell you that I get a flutter when I get a little twisted, and I'm usually somewhere out there or somewhere back there. I'm not here. There is no pain in the moment unless I've got, I'm literally on fire or I have a gun to my head. So I came back to Maryland. I was different. And that's when I hooked up with Roger, my current sponsor, Roger McMahon. Primary Purpose Group, line by line, we started studying the book, right? I had to come back. I had to go through my divorce, and this is 2009, and I started to move forward. I eventually got I took my license to be an insurance agent and sold insurance and annuities. I'd been in school since, I'd been in school ever. I think 6th grade was the last time I had a coherent thought. I knew how to study, and I passed, right? State, they press the button. Are you finished? Yes. Are you sure you're finished? And it's like, oh shit. Pass. I'm an insurance agent now. Right? And I was doing great. You know why? Because the principles of the program are now starting to kick in. I was taking these principles into all my affairs. Right? Roger had me making my bed in the morning, calling him. He asked me what time would be a good time for me to call in the morning. I picked the time. I said 8:35 because I go to a 7:30 meeting. It's over at 8:30. Right after the meeting, I'll call you. Perfect, 8:35. That was 14 years ago. I still call him. every morning at 8:35. That's my time. Do I have an alarm to remind me? Yes. Right? And that's what I tell my guys to do. What time would be a good time for you to call me in the morning? Because if they can't make a phone call, how are we going to do the rest of this stuff? Right? How are we going to go through the steps? If you don't have the discipline or dedication to make one phone call, Monday through Friday, I'm going to give you off weekends. I don't care what you do on the weekends. How are we going to do the rest of this stuff? All right? So I went through the steps with Roger. I struggled with this shame from my childhood for decades in recovery. And it manifests itself in many strange ways. I was admitted to Shepherd Pratt University for dietary studies. It's a hospital for bulimia. That was a joke, by the way. That was a bulimia joke. All right, tough crowd. I was throwing up every day. I was dying. Right? It's about mental illness, and the disease just manifested itself into an eating disorder. Now I'm 30 years sober, right? And I'm dying. The therapist had to beg me, please make the phone call. And I'm driving up there still thinking that I don't belong here. I got 31 years of recovery. It's impossible that I have an eating disorder. I tell you what, when they locked those doors and then they put me in front of a meal and I couldn't go to the bathroom without somebody being in the room with me, that's when I knew I had a problem. I was like, oh shit. And I just put my hands in my face and just started crying, right? It's hard sometimes letting go of something that happened to me when I was 8 years old that is so much a part of me. Even though it's killing me, I can't let it go because I don't know anything else. And it manifests for men in porn, massage parlors, promiscuity, inability to form a true partnership with another human being. That soul sickness doesn't care how it kills you. All right? And I remember, 2 weeks, I made it to the next level, and I was staying in like a hotel, and I got to go out to my first meal. My friend Kelly came up, and she went out to my first meal with me, and I went to, what's that steak place where they have shrimp on the barbie? Good Day. Outback Steakhouse. And I had to pick my own meal. I had a petite filet with asparagus and a baked potato. That was a lot of food for me to eat. And I ate it. All right? And I pray every day for God to guide my thoughts and my actions, and God removed that from me. I no longer suffer. It's a little bit weird, that disease, because, you got to eat. I continued to struggle in my recovery, and I found a therapist down in Berlin, Maryland, where I'm from, and she specialized in AMDR, which is a deep trauma therapy, right? And it's on a cellular level. I'm just going to tell you how it was for me. On a cellular level, that shit is stored in your body, right? And I couldn't get rid of it no matter how I tried, right? For me, I needed therapy, I needed God, and I needed this woman. And they do the finger thing where they wipe it back and forth, and that really kind of distracted me, and I didn't like it, so. They had these magnetic pads. And I would hold on to them, and I'd close my eyes. And we went down into the basement of that neighborhood house where this shit went down. And I was there. And I was an observer. And I'm looking, nothing was really clear, but I knew what was going on in the dark corner of that. It was, this neighborhood kid and a family member, right? And then I would come up out of it, and she would say, "What did you see?" And I'd tell her. And it's pretty intense shit, so it's not to be done alone. I went through another session, and then I wasn't the observer, I was the participant. And it was like I was there again. So I'd come out of this thing going, whoa, this is crazy. And then I realized at a certain point that the family member kind of grew me into this. I thought he was an innocent bystander for a long period of time, and I realize now that it was a little bit more than that. Heavy. Wow. And then there was one scene where the adult me went down there with a baseball bat and beat the living snot out of both of these guys. Like there was so much rage. Still, I had no idea that I had that much rage down there still. And I remember grabbing my little guy by the hand. We walked up the stairs, and I said, "It's going to be all right, buddy. We're going to be okay now." And my last session with her, I went down there again. And I'm just telling you what happened. Somebody walks down the stairs, just the whole room fills with light, destroys everything in that basement. Just blasts it out with this overwhelming bright light. And then the top opened of this house, like it was this. It was like an opening. And this big arm reached down, pulled me out into a grassy field that was beautiful, and ripped the top of the ceiling or the roof of this place and just kind of flung him into the air, this big giant wind. And then ripped this house out of the ground and just hurled it into the wind. And then immediately the ground filled up and just covered with flowers and grass. Right? Now you come out of a little therapy session and you tell my therapist said, "What did you see?" And I went, she was like, "Holy shit." Yeah. God removed it when he was ready. He said, "You're done suffering. You're done being a victim." I was tired of being a victim. Right? We love to be victims in Alcoholics Anonymous. We love to hang on to the shame because it gives us the freedom to act out on that crap, even today. Years and years and years after we stop drinking. Right? The freedom that I have today. I remember Sandy Beach doing a talk about a slide carousel. Anybody remember slide carousels when they were kids? Raise your hands. Come on, old people. There we go. We didn't have iPhones, right? We couldn't project a movie on the wall with our iPhones. We had to look at these slides. And you would say, "Oh, there's Grandma hammering at the party. There's Grandpa with a lampshade on his head." And he described it as, all of our resentments, all the stuff that happened to us, all the really important slides of our life. They're in there, baby. We're not letting those go. And the process of the steps is about removal, right? Removal. I had to forgive that family member. That's a big slide. I'm not sure if I want to let that one go, because what am I going to blame, who am I going to blame now if I get rid of that slide? Right? So with the mom and the dad and the neighborhood kid and the brother and the guy that should have stopped me that night when I got into that car and had that accident. You should have stopped me. Why didn't you stop me? Got to take that slide out. That slide. And when you remove all the slides and you hit that last slide and it's empty, what shines on the wall? Light. Right? That's how we came in. You were a beautiful, sweet, innocent little girl. I was a beautiful, sweet, innocent child of God, shining my little light, right? Running around the neighborhood, playing with matchboxes. No, I wasn't soiled. I wasn't shamed. I wasn't broken. I was perfect, right? And then life beats the shit out of us, right? And we start drinking to hide the shame and the pain. And for the first time in my life, I didn't have that. The slide carousel was empty. And I felt like I was shining a light again. Oh my God. I never thought that I would be one of the shiny ones. You know those shiny ones. Oh my God, the shiny ones, right? Those spiritually fit big book thumpers that did all the steps and did all the work and they're all cleaned out. Not gonna happen for me. There's too much shame. It's too deep. It's impossible. It is not going to happen for me. I know it. I just know it. It's not true. You know what happened for me? I started to make my bed. I started to call my sponsor and I started to go through that book. It changed my life. It allowed me to find the guy who knew the therapist. You know, I pray for God to guide my thoughts and my actions every day. When I get on the phone with my sponsees, I got one that calls at 7:30, one at 7:45, one 9:15, and that's my guide. Right? I don't have to, it's not rocket science to be a sponsor. My sponsor took me to the book we were talking about, 14 times at the primary purpose group down in Ocean City. I've got notes. Roger said do this. Roger said do that. Roger said do this. This is what you're going to tell the newcomer. Write this down. This is how they're feeling. This is what they're thinking. This is where you know whether you got them or not. Are they in or are they out? I know pretty much within the first week if they're in or out. If they can't make a phone call, I can't do anything. I can't help them. It's not rocket science. I can't help you, guy. I wish I could, but you can't make a phone call. How am I going to do the rest of this stuff? It's not a difficult thing to be a sponsor. I'm reading my sponsor's notes. I got 2 groups right now, Wednesday and Thursday night. We're going, and they're staggered, so I read the doctor's opinion. Then I read Bill's story. Then I read the doctor's opinion. Then every time I read it, it's like comes to life. This is a phenomenal program with a miraculous history of one drunk working with another. Before Bill Wilson worked with Dr. Bob, Dr. Silkworth worked with 40,000 alcoholics in Towns Hospital with a success rate of 1 to 2%. Bill has his white light experience, goes out to Akron, 12 steps Bob, comes back to Towns Hospital. Hey, I want to talk to some of your drunks. And a little reluctantly, Silkworth, all right. Their success rate jumped to 50 to 55%. What changed? Spirituality being transmitted from one drunk to another. For the first time in human history, we, had a direct vehicle to transmit spirituality from one drunk. We are so blessed, right? When I study that book, I have the opportunity, all that shame, all that pain, God's grace has washed through it all and give me the ability to give that message to another drunk. He wiped his slate. All the slides are empty. I can put new slides in, don't get me wrong. I will fill up that carousel, right? But I have a 10-step to empty the carousel on a daily basis. And the slides aren't nearly as heavy as they were. I have a beautiful life today. My wife Stacy and I got married on the beach in Aguadilla, Puerto Rico, January 4th of this year. I have a true partnership with another human being. I used to read that line in the big book and go, no, not happening. Not for a guy like me. And God, has other plans, right? If you're new or if you're not so new and you're not feeling this way, right? There is a solution, right? It's right in the book. Find somebody, go to one of those shiny people and say, what's going on, right? The guys that I'm working with now saw me at meetings and said, hey man, I don't have what you have. Could you take me through the book? Oh my God, yeah. This is the greatest part. This is the fun part, right? I get to share this with somebody else. That is my primary purpose. I do other stuff. I have a job and I have other little side jobs that I do, but my primary purpose is to stay sober and help another alcoholic to achieve sobriety. What a gift. What a gift I've been blessed with. And the guy that thought he would never, ever, ever be free of all that shame, I stand before you a free man. I still have to do the things on a daily basis, right? I got to shave my neck parts. I got to get dressed. I got to do a little exercise. I got to eat right. I got to talk to drunks. I got to call my sponsor. I got to do 5 or 6 or 7 things in the morning just to get the level par where the rest of the humans are, right? Those normal people seem to get up and have no problem doing that stuff every day. Not me. Right? I have to constantly be on guard and constantly be giving this message away. So I'm so grateful. My job is not done yet. There's a lot of exciting things happening in my life that are God's grace. And I'm so glad that I was able to be here tonight to share with you. And so that's it, Ronnie. Thank you so much.
Let's give our speaker another round of applause. So a few reminders. Our speakers come here on their own time and expense. It's customary that we form a line and thank our speakers after the meeting, so please join me when we're done. Thank you for making the coffee tonight. We had a couple of helpers tonight. We have a few other meetings. Every Saturday we're here at 8:30 for the meeting. If you'd like to be a greeter, we start greeting at 7:45, 8 o'clock, so please join us. Business meeting every Saturday at 7 o'clock. On Mondays we have a step meeting. We go through steps 1 through 12 at 6 o'clock right here in this room. There's an Al-Anon meeting at 7:30. And on Thursday nights we have a sister group. It's a big book study at Salem Church, Thursdays at 7:30. We'd love to have you. So with that, we have a nice way of closing. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Keep coming back and work.
Yeah, don't forget the meeting after the meeting. If you want to be of a little bit of assistance, those chairs got to go on the rack. The tables and chairs stay right where they're at.